Have you ever had that strange feeling that your own success is actually what's holding your company back? Well, today, we're diving into a really powerful framework for founders. It's called Narrative Systems Engineering, and it's all about how to get out of your own way so your company can finally, truly scale. So let's just ask the big question right up front. Is your company growing faster than you can lead it? You've got a great product, a solid strategy, but somehow every single important decision still lands right on your desk. If you're kind of nodding your head right now, well, this is for you. And here's the most important thing to get right away. You haven't failed, not at all. In fact, having this problem is actually a sign of your success. The real issue is much simpler. You've just become the bottleneck. This leads us straight into something called the founder's growth trap. And it's this fascinating and, pretty frustrating paradox where the exact same traits that made you successful in the first place are now the very things holding the whole company back. I mean, think back to the early days, right? You had to carry all the context in your head. You had to be the one absorbing all the risk. You had to make every single critical call. Your job, really, was to be indispensable. And you know what? It worked. But here's the catch. Here's the trap. As the company gets bigger, that hero identity, the one who does everything, it stops being an asset. It becomes the single biggest bottleneck that slows down growth, burns you out, and stops your team from ever taking real ownership. So how in the world do you break out of that cycle? Well, you have to completely reframe the problem. This isn't about more effort. It's about better architecture. And this right here is the core idea. It's not about putting in more hours or just hustling harder. It's about stepping back and redesigning the system itself, the actual architecture of how leadership and decisions flow through your organization. You can really see the two different mindsets laid out here. The effort-based thinker is just stuck on a hamster wheel, right? Always trying to work harder, optimize one more task. But the architecture-based thinker, they step back. They look at the blueprint. They ask way bigger questions about identity, stories, and the design of the whole system. One is a dead end. The other is how you truly scale. This brings us to a really important term for this problem, an identity constraint. It's basically when your personal story about your role and the behaviors that naturally come from that story unintentionally end up creating the very patterns that are capping your company's growth. And here's how it all connects. It's a loop. It all starts with your identity, who you believe you need to be. That identity shapes the stories you tell. Those stories drive your behaviors and decisions. Those decisions create the company's results. And then, here's the kicker, those results feed right back and reinforce your original identity. Now, this can be a vicious cycle that keeps you stuck. Or, if you redesign it, it can become a virtuous one that fuels growth. So, okay, let's talk about the solution. It's called Narrative Systems Engineering, and it's a systems-based approach to leadership that actually lets you break that negative loop. To put it simply, narrative systems engineering is just a structured way to diagnose those identity constraints we were just talking about, and then to systematically refactor, like rewriting code, how leadership and decision-making actually flow through your whole company. And this isn't just some abstract idea, it's a really practical, actionable process. You can do it in a focused 4-week sprint. You'd start in week 1 by just diagnosing the core constraint. Then, in week 2, you work on decoupling those old knee-jerk survival mode reactions from real strategic leadership. Week 3 is huge. That's when you consciously refactor your own identity, from being the doer to being the architect. And then in week 4, you lock all those changes in with new structures for making decisions and delegating. This whole process, this whole journey, is designed to create one single, fundamental shift in your leadership, moving from being the doer to becoming the architect. See, before this shift, you are a funnel, a human funnel. Every decision, every idea, every problem has to squeeze through you. It's completely exhausting, and it puts a massive drag on the speed and the potential of your entire organization. But afterward, you become the architect. Your job is no longer to do all the work yourself. Your job is to design the system, the culture, the processes, the leadership framework that can run and thrive even when you're not in the middle of every little thing. So, let's boil it all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, remember that your growth problems are almost always architecture problems, not effort problems. Second, your personal story as a leader becomes the company's unofficial operating system. And third, and this is the most important one, refactoring your own identity is the key that unlocks your team's ability to scale. Ultimately, the goal is pretty simple to say, but profound to achieve. It's to grow your impact without having to route everything through you. It's about finding true leverage, not just for the business, but for your own leadership. So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. If you were no longer the bottleneck, what could your company truly become?